You know what? Now you got me, BJ. See, you did it to me today.
Here it
You know
goes.
what? I'm tired. I am tired of politicians, and I'm going to talk at the state level right now, talking out of both sides of their mouth when it comes to housing. I'm tired.
Correct.
Right? We have housing is a crisis now. It's not just a concern. It's not just a problem. Homelessness and housing are a serious issue in our state. And if you just close your eyes and pretend it's not happening, it is going to smack you in the face. It's gonna happen.
We are back. We are back. We are back. We are your concerned citizens of St. Mary's County, soon to be Southern Maryland. We are going to go around the horn as soon as I hit the tagline properly. Empowering the people, igniting change. Now we can go around the horn. We're going to start with you, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm Brandon Russell here for, what is this? Episode 10. Episode 10, y'all. Woot woot. Concerned citizen in St. Mary's, follow local politics, ran for county commissioner last year, as I've told you 10 times now, I guess. Having a ball doing this. Looking forward to having our first guest today.
Mr. Hill.
My name's Chris Hill, and for the 10th time yet again, I get to tell you I'm a local realtor in Southern Maryland, also a concerned citizen, and I also am excited that we have a guest today and get to meet him and talk some new stuff and some new people.
We're not going to go to you, Mr. Tuttle. I'm going to introduce myself, and then we'll get to formally introduce you. But my name is BJ Hall, and I am also a concerned citizen. I also ran for office. Fortunately or unfortunately, I got to find some way to just land that. But, I'm former president NAACP and the founder and president of Reach Back and Lift One, doing some pretty cool things here in St. Mary's County. Can't wait to let y'all watch us grow or work with us as we grow. I prefer the second one. So we do have a guest, our first guest. Let's give a round of applause for our first guest. We should get him a gift or something, Mr. Steve Tuttle. Hey, we have like a resume or something for you. I feel like we should read off a list of accomplishments, but we'll pass you the microphone and allow you to introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on this evening. My name is Steve Tuttle, previous county commissioner candidate for District 4. I am the vice chair for the Animal Control Advisory Board. I'm also the educator for the Machinist Union, Local Lodge number 4, right here in Lexington Park. I'm a previous chair of the Warm Wrapping Arms Around Mini. I've been involved in the community since I moved back in 2012. And I am always, like people say, in someone's business when it comes to county government. So
good. That's good stuff.
That's awesome. So that it sounds like you too are a concerned citizen, sir.
I am very, very concerned citizen.
I think he has a few thoughts.
It was like the only thing he's just not a big typer like you, Mr. Russell.
I am not.
Right. Brandon is our information czar.
Yeah, Brandon's good information. I work behind the scenes. I kind of like try to connect the things together to get things done.
Roger that. We should be like those two old men in the orchestra pit. It's like sitting there talking trash at all the meetings. Like,
That's too funny.
All right. So the getting to know you segment is no longer. What has you concerned? We're going to start talking about what's burning us up during the week. Every week we have the show. And this week, I think we have some good topics to talk about. Brandon, why don't you tell us what you got?
Well, what concerns me this week is actually a carryover from our last episode, which is the excise tax. At this point, we've had the public hearing for that and for the budget, which we'll get to shortly. And so I'm really concerned about what that final number is going to be and how that ordinance is going to be worded, because I want to make sure that they're using it for what they say they're using it for.
Roger that. Mr. Hill, you can't repeat what he just said.
Well, I know. I mean, obviously, I'm concerned about the excise tax, right? I mean, it's too funny. It's like you can't really backpedal on that. That's an issue we got to deal. But you know what? That affects something else that I'm really passionate about right now, and that is housing opportunity. And we have a serious housing crisis going on in Maryland, and not just St. Mary's County, but in the entire state and the country, really. And we need to, I'm concerned that these excise taxes and other fees that are piling on are just making it the reach for housing further and further away from most people.
Roger that. Yeah, we actually had what was it? Miss Scriber from the Housing Authority come down to the NAACP branch meeting last night, and she was talking about some of the issues that they're facing. And the wait list, and it let me know I need to do a lot more digging on the funding cap that we have. I was like, how can we adjust how many people are being served, and how do we shorten that wait, because we have a waiting list. We have people on the waiting list from 1999.
Yeah,
I was like,
oh yeah,
how crazy is that? 1999.
Not to share, what I actually today I had something in the and the comptroller was there, and that was a big conversation with us about how we can make housing more, reachable for people, and that I thought it was really nice to have that kind of conversation. It's good.
Is affordable a curse word in your industry?
Yeah, I mean, like it is actually, because the word has become such a what's affordable, right? Like, what is affordable? And then they came up with this. Remember, we talked about words matter. Remember, we did that when we were talking about the bills, right? Yeah. I mean, then there's workforce housing, right? Yeah. And then there's affordable housing, and there's housing opportunities. And the truth is, you can't afford a damn house right now.
Yeah.
And we need to fix that.
True story.
So there's my concern.
One, I just realized that Mr. Tuttle has his name out here naked. You need, while we're talking, you need to figure out some letters to put behind your name.
I had to make mine up.
That's how we do things around here. We had to make sure that that's how you get approved as an authority figure around these parts. Put some letters behind your name.
I'm gonna put some more on mine just for fun. I'm gonna do it right now. You're gonna make it up.
Mr. Tuttle, what is concerning you this week?
I'm going to go with the budget, but I'm going to dig in a little deeper, though. I want to make sure that when you have your hand in my pocket, the government being the government, that my money's going to the things that I care about, which I care about all the things the money's going to now, but there's some things that are lacking, and the county needs to have some skin in the game, which they currently don't. We can throw money at a housing issue to the housing authority, and that's not going to accomplish the problem. We have to come together, think outside the box. And I need to see with my own eyes and feel, so to speak, the investment that the government is doing for our citizens. Affordable housing or income-based housing or workforce housing, or however you want to call it, is unattainable for a lot. But we can't rip out trailer parks, which is considered affordable housing for a lot, and not replace it with something else. We need to, and the county doesn't have a plan or any skin in the game. And when it comes to homelessness, that's going to be a whole other line of fish. But it's making sure the money goes where it needs to go the most.
I think they have a plan to replace those trailer parks with something very specific, sir.
They do.
The county does, or the landowner does?
Look here, man. Look. Well, we're not talking about that right now. Some of us, you know what I'm saying? Like, some of us may be running for office later. We don't want to start that. No, you know what? We'll start that argument when it's appropriate, because at some point, if there is something that needs to be built there will be an application that will be publicized, and we will see what will be built there. But until then, it's just rumor. And
it's allegations, speculation.
Absolutely.
Allegedly.
Exactly. We're not gonna spread rumors around here. It's enough.
Right.
Well, let's just hope that we get that notice in a timely manner so that it's not a done deal, like so many things are around here, right?
You know, yeah. I gotta say though, I'm gonna put this out there, and it's probably not in our agenda and all that, but you know, I mean, the fact that we have the opportunity to discuss these things, and they have been before the actual things take place. You know, I mean, there's a lot of we have had that. I mean, obviously we have. So
yeah,
I feel like there's trying to be some transparency there, and I do appreciate that. Oh, come on!
It's getting better. It's getting better.
I'm just gonna sit here and drink my tea.
Yeah.
Please,
okay.
Please do.
Sips tea.
Right. Suspiciously. Real quick, what's burning me up, and I can't even lie to you, I'm hot today.
Oh.
Yeah. Healthcare. Now we always talk about. Usually we talk about insurance when we talk about healthcare. But when you live in the rural areas, it's usually some part of access, right? Some aspect of access. Let me tell you, we have some of the worst some of the worst. Yes. And I don't care who funds what. Let me tell you, that hospital, I had stroke symptoms at my house, and I drove to DC so I did not die in that hospital of ours because I am scared. I was there, I had a heart attack, and I sat in there for 3 days and didn't see a cardiologist. I was like, damn, you could have at least got me a cardiologist. You know what I'm saying? It was like I'm not even picky when it comes. Just know what you're doing. Take care of me. Make sure that I feel comfortable enough to not consider death when I'm in your facility. You know, I don't ask for much.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that concern here locally. But you know what? I think there's a lot of rural areas that are faced with that, though. I really do see that.
I got a specific example. Give me a second. Give me one. Give me a little space.
It's all you.
Give me a little space. I'll let y'all have the excess tax in a second. But I have a defibrillator in my chest, right? And periodically I have to get my defibrillator changed out. Mm-hmm. When I have to get my defibrillator changed out, there should be a log. People talk about their notes about what happened during the procedure. I had an old defibrillator in, and now I am facing issues of a neurological nature that require MRIs. My old defibrillator was not compatible. I could not have an MRI with my old defibrillator. So in the middle of our campaign season last year, I got a defibrillator replaced in my chest, and it's compatible with MRI. So I go to get an MRI with my new MRI compatible defibrillator. It takes me a month just to get a call back to say, we'll schedule you for 3 weeks from now. And then he goes through the notes and he finds out that I still have old hardware in my chest. I called the doctor who did the surgery, and he went through his notes. He said, oh shit, I left 2 different notes. Said, I removed the hardware. I did not remove the hardware. I don't know what's in my chest. So I go to my cardiologist here to get a chest x-ray. And the person at the desk acted like I asked for their firstborn child when I asked to get an x-ray of my chest. So I'm sitting here trying not to have an attitude because I'm like, you have all the power in this situation. And so they treated me so bad. And all I wanted to do was, no, did you leave something in here? And I don't know. To this day, I went to the doctor 2 times this week to figure it out. And they looked at they looked at an x-ray. And they said, I can't tell how many leads are in your chest. Like, what the hell is that? How is that? How is this 2023? We got talking phones and we got an app that can write papers for us, but they can't tell me what's in my damn chest. That is insane.
BJ, did you ask Chat GPT what's in your chest? They have the answers.
They got them all. You know what? It was like I should put
what's
my chest
in
up
my
to the
chest?
camera.
Right.
BJ, I'll be honest,
will tell you.
I will not use the hospital here in the county. I actually go to Calvert instead. And I am on VA health insurance, and I will drive myself to the VA hospital in DC if it's after hours, then go to St. Mary's. And that should tell you a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I hear a ton of people say that. Don't go to St. Mary's, go here. And I think even in, we could get on a whole subject about healthcare in this area and how access is such a problem. And I mean, even the people that work at the hospital are like, we are not equipped to deal with certain things. Right. And, we need to be able to do this because, we're so remote when it comes to healthcare. If you don't have a helicopter to fly somewhere, you might die.
And St. Mary's is still considered a destitute area for medical services.
Oh, yeah, totally.
You talk to the Shaws when they came down here, and a lot of the doctors, they'll tell you, yeah, I came and took the orders here because it's considered a destitute area. I said, oh, it's built up now. Like, no, it's still considered.
We have a healthcare provider shortage. I mean, and the problem is they would definitely rather work in the urban areas, get paid a little bit more, and then
especially specialty care.
Yeah, specialty care for sure. All right, so what's our topic today? Where are we going?
I just wanted to say we only have one urologist in our county.
Wow,
right?
That's crazy.
Used to be two.
Dr. J.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What we wanted to do is kind of focus on our guest today. He wears a lot of hats, and you actually touched on one of them when you start talking about the housing issue, and I know that the housing issue is a big concern for you, Mr. Tuttle.
It is.
I know that you used to be. You were the chair for WARM.
I started out as registration, then secretary, vice chair, and then chair. And then when I ran for office, I had to resign as chair, and then Dolly got elected chair.
So one of the things that the pandemic kind of revealed to me was the severity of our homelessness problem in St. Mary's County. When we had Tent City down there and in the Passive Park area.
Passive Park, yep.
And then I met a couple of really good people doing some serious work with homeless people, with the homeless population here in St. Mary's County. Mm-hmm. Shout out to Mary Beth Allen. She's a saint.
Yes.
She took me behind St. Mary's Square.
Right.
And oh my God. I'm sure that you could probably provide a lot better detail, some of the issues that we're facing. But can you describe what our homelessness issue is like here in St. Mary's County, and can you describe some of the efforts that are going to address that are currently underway to address our homeless issues?
So the WARM program is a hypothermia shelter style program. We only operate in the wintertime. It was started by all the local churches. The United Methodist Church of Lexington Park. One winter, they found a body in the woods, and they said they didn't want that to happen again. And so he united all these churches together. About 9 or 10 years, actually 10 years ago or 11 years ago, I believe it was 2019. No, it was late. It was 2011 or 2010, I believe, when they started doing that. And it just blossomed. And basically what you do is you have registration, you get checked in, you're screened from DSS, and then you get approved. You go to Three Oaks. Three Oaks does the assessment on you, and then you get into the WARM program. Now, if you're a veteran or you have a disability, you're in some cases put ahead of the line for Section 8. BJ brought up the encampment during the pandemic. Unfortunately, WARM had to shut down the last 2 weeks of our program that year, and we had nowhere to put the homeless people. So they did the encampment so they could get resources and services to them, and also make sure if they were sick, they could get them the medical care they needed. I want to let you know that every person in that encampment, except 4 people, got Section 8 housing vouchers.
Wow.
And they all into housing. It's the fastest I have ever seen Section 8 work, and I probably will never see it work that fast again. The problem is growth. When we grow as a county and housing grows, you need places to put it. The county commissioners, I believe, passed a referendum or an ordinance that there could be no more trailer parks built in the county. Now, Chris, you might be able to correct me on that, but they didn't want it because they considered it was blight. Well, when you rip down a trailer park to build a Harris Teeter, or you rip down a trailer park to build a Kohl's, those people have to go somewhere. They have to find housing, and there isn't any housing available. So then you go, so when you're homeless, you go to social services and you're trying to get help, and there's nothing there for you. We don't have a homeless shelter here. 3 Oaks at the time was a men's and veteran shelter only, and then they changed their who they house based on what funding they get. So the county does contribute a little bit to these organizations, social service getting almost a lot of the money to help run, but where do they go? After Warm is over with, you have the Mission, which is still building their new shelter, and they do have beds, but they're very restrictive on what they're more like a stopgap in a way, a temporary smaller stopgap for people who qualify. Now, if you're a veteran in St. Mary's County, you get housing. There is so much programs and available. If you hear somebody says, I'm a homeless veteran, they either did not abide by the rules or have a substance abuse or untreated mental health problem. Now, working in St. Mary's County and trying to get hoteling for hypothermia when we're full, or that someone doesn't qualify for our program due to high mental health or substance abuse, there is nothing for anybody. And the county does, I'm sorry, the bare minimum, if anything at all. I mean, I have taken phone calls from the sheriff's office at 3 a.m. with a temperature outside of 2 degrees at times to get people in our program, and we have. It's not just a housing thing, and it's Chris, we talked about it earlier. I mean, housing is not affordable for a lot here, and we can't sustain this much longer. And I don't like to say low income housing. I like to say income based, where you're on a sliding scale. But who's going to pay for it? Who's going to build it? And how is it going to be funded? And that's where
problem.
Right. And that's where I'm like, well, I would like to see some of my tax dollars go to that. Now, I'm probably the only one in the county that will admit that. But, to handle the housing crisis, it's got to be a multi-pronged or multi-faceted approach. You just can't say, hey, builder, throw me up some affordable housing. Because what's affordable to me is probably not affordable to Chris or Brandon. So, you know what I mean?
It's funny you say that. I mean, that's one of the things we've had conversations about, income-based housing, and it is a struggle when developing. Well, I have an argument on that, and I'd like to be honest with you about it. And that is like, there's always the property owner's rights, right? Okay. So I always feel that as a property owner, you have the right to do within reason
what you want to do
with your property. That being said, you're not always permitted to do that, right? And a lot of times you sell it if the property owner happens to be a developer who happens to want to develop the property. Now, if you're building a neighborhood, right, then I do believe there should be a portion of that is, I hate to use the word segmented, but allocated. That's the word.
There you go.
Right? A portion of that's allocated for maybe more income-based housing, and that creates a dynamic development, a true PUD, right? And I agree with you to some. I would like some of my tax dollars to go to dealing with the multifaceted approach to homelessness, right? Because that's what this is about. And it's funny because there's not only the homeless, that there are the house poor.
Correct.
That are even worse right now, right? Like that's
the working poor.
Or the working poor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's becoming that gap is becoming larger and larger, and you don't see it in the homeless population as much because that's an easier. I hate to say it, it's easier group to identify.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, that
it's more visible.
Yeah,
It is.
and I see it all the time. Like it,
Mhm.
you know, and then it's just so frustrating when we need to come up with, and you said it, we need to think outside of the box on these things, right? We need to come up with either tax incentives for maybe the property owner, the developer, not just in lieu of, maybe there's some longer term things that we can do, some first time home buyer programs
Right.
that could really assist. And we used to have a first time home buyer grant that was very successful.
It was.
Yeah.
Super successful, and it helped get those people that are just on the cusp of being able to afford to be able to get there. And I used that grant 100 times, give or take, and it for my clients, and it was a great program. I just think you're right. There's so many things we need to really reevaluate how we spend that and what we're doing with it.
And we also we can't concentrate the income-based housing in certain locations. You must spread it throughout the county.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think that Chris, what you said about making an allocation of housing in new developments, I think that that's something that the county should seriously look at doing in our zoning ordinances. That if you're developing a PUD or a large housing development, even if it's not a PUD, just a large development, that you have to dedicate whatever percentage, 10-20% of what's being built to more income-based housing that is affordable for people. And I think that when you do that, there's less of the not in my backyard stuff going on, because then you don't have groups of people coming out and saying, oh, we don't want low income housing near our residents because it's going to bring crime, or whatever these narratives are that they bring with them.
Here's the problem, Brandon, that I see, and I've been thinking about this, and it's actually really important to recognize. So we always say there's these big developments in St. Mary's County, okay, right? All this big development. Everybody complains about the big development in St. Mary's County. How many big developments are there in St. Mary's County?
Currently?
Yeah.
Wildwood's one.
Yeah, and they're done. They're finished. Yeah.
Myrtle Point will be 2.
Yeah, they're done. They've got 30, 40 more units, right? Something like that. I don't know what.
They're actually putting in another 150 plus the condos.
All right. So 1. We'll call that 1.
So most of Grant will be 1.
The point being is we have focused on smaller, tiny subdivisions because we haven't had the big subdivisions across the county. So we haven't been able to have that kind of an impact on housing, because you can't, when you got a 10 lot subdivision, you can't say that 2 lots have to be income based. You just can't.
Well, it kind of depends. Yeah, it depends on what the size of the development is. But I think that, we are, you have a good point there. I think that it really speaks to the point that the county in so many ways is behind the 8 ball on what they should have been doing 20 years ago, and we're experiencing growth. I mean, we heard at the budget hearing the other night, I think somebody said this is the fastest growing county in the state, and the commissioners need to make sure that they stay aware of that. And I feel like that's very true. We can't, we can't keep doing things the way that we're doing them, because they are not sustainable. I could go down so many different rabbit holes where that's true. Infrastructure alone, we require commercial development and residential neighborhood developers to help us build out our infrastructure. And that's fine. But what happens when development stops and our infrastructure still needs to grow? Then how are we going to pay for it? We don't have that in place anymore. So, Wildwood was started well more than 20 years ago. It was started back in the 70s, I think. But, sometime between then and now, I feel like we had a good opportunity for the local government to say, hey, let's be forward thinking and put some of these things in place to help prevent potential future issues.
I think the problem was, and you're exactly right. Now we can start planning. Maybe there wasn't as much foresight put into what was happening, because I remember like 20 years ago when the subdivision was put in, there was still a lot of the roads need to be this, the schools need to be this. Those were still concerns. But what wasn't concerning was affordability, right? That was never really an issue then. And now it is, and I think we have to really rethink. The state has taken up a lot of they're going to be taking up a lot of local zoning issues in the future, and I think these some of these comprehensive plans are all going to change across the state, and many of them, if not all of them, are going to include housing affordability options in it. So I mean, I think they're going to be forced to deal with that at some point.
Yeah.
Well, the price has got to start stabilizing it. I mean, I don't want to say come down because then I lose value in my house as well. But, I bought this townhome in Myrtle Point in my 40s. And like I said, I paid $409,000 for a townhome. When we moved to Crofton in 1994, my mother bought, and my parents at the time bought their townhome in Crofton for $150,000. Like, it's, are we getting more for our money's worth? I mean, and Lennar is the builder of of the community here, and they will be the builder of Stewart's Grant. Yeah. And I just don't see the average Joe that's, the working poor or the, I just don't see it. And we've got to find some way to kind of meet in the middle with government and private partnerships to conquer. And it's not something we're going to be able to do overnight or in the next year or in the next 5 years. But when it comes to the excise tax, which we'll probably roll into that later, I would like to see a percentage of that excise tax go to that problem. But should the county run it? We have the housing authority. Maybe it should be something that we can give the housing authority. They can build their own structure on county land. I know, I saw it, Chris. Or should that be where we have a different organization manage that? I mean, I don't know. There's too many ways to approach it. But I mean, I'll tell you, 10 years ago, you would have told me there was a homeless problem in St. Mary's County. I would have called you a liar.
Right.
And
yeah.
Now I see it.
So I guess can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear the party that we weren't invited to.
I apologize if you don't follow me on social media. It's like I posted it on all the social media things.
I'm looking for my invite.
I wanted a personal invite. I didn't want to have to follow you for it, but I see how.
Right.
It's probably one of those phone calls that you ordered mine,
Oh.
So one of the things I read and something that I was actually pitching while I was running for office was a housing action plan, and because we talk about the housing component of the comprehensive plan, and they do all these studies and everything, but we're necessarily come out of there with an actionable plan of how we address some of the housing issues. And sometimes when you have something that only addresses affordable housing, that turns people off. When I've read a few in one of the planning magazines, they talked about the housing action plans, but they addressed all of the housing inventory in the county, every element of housing. So it talks about affordable housing. It talks about areas that need to be restored. It talks about new housing development, and it develops a more intentional plan to execute your housing growth. So it's not just random sprawl throughout the county as we're seeing right now. And you know what? And oh, you shaking your head? Oh, come on! Yeah, one of your hot buttons, Mr. Housing.
Yeah, it is. It is because it's funny. As Maryland Realtors this year, one of our proposals was, and it was almost considered radical in the Maryland legislature, was to include with every bill to include a housing impact for each bill, because and what did we get from that? What did we get from the state?
Nothing.
Forget you.
Yeah.
Let's be real. It really wasn't supported. It wasn't anything there to support it. We knew it would be because it's just a thing. You know what? Now you got me, BJ. See, you did it to me today.
Here it goes.
I'm tired. I am tired of politicians, and I'm going to talk at the state level right now, talking out of both sides of their mouth when it comes to housing. I'm tired. Correct. Right? We have housing is a crisis now. It's not just a concern. It's not just a problem. Homelessness and housing are a serious issue in our state. And if you just close your eyes and pretend it's not happening, it is going to smack you in the face. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I think, part of what I think probably we could all agree with is that just people are not paying attention, or maybe just simply don't know to pay attention to certain things. And I saw a lot of that. I'm sure BJ and Steve did too last year on the campaign trail. I mean, there were people I would knock on their doors and they didn't even know who the county commissioners were or what they did. I mean, so, I think especially with housing, where housing is concerned, it is a crisis, and we can't just continue to kick the can. And it does lead, to people becoming homeless because there is not enough housing to house them. And one of the things, that kind of comes to mind when I say people just don't know or just don't know about certain things is homelessness in St. Mary's County is not a like Lexington Park, Great Mills problem. It happens throughout the county. There are homeless people living throughout the county. And the other thing you have to consider too is there are a large portion of people who, are one bad day away from potentially being homeless, whether it's, they have a history of, substance abuse and they fall off the wagon, or they're one paycheck away, their car breaks down and they can't afford to pay the mortgage and they get behind. And all of these things, it starts as, a pebble and it turns into a boulder, and all of a sudden you're in an avalanche. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge, that there are plenty in our population who are in a very precarious situation financially, and one wrong turn away from something terrible happening.
That's so right on.
Yeah, that's why when you were saying we're almost there, I'm like, man, we're in the middle of it, baby. I'm like, especially when you look at the income disparity down in St. Mary's County. I was just listening to somebody talking about rent in Patuxent Park. It was like Patuxent Homes. Somebody told me that they were hitting people for $2,000 for $2,600. $2,600 for a 4-bedroom house, and I was like, shoot. I was like, I better keep myself in here with this mortgage, because if I got to pay $2,600 in rent, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And
well, I got a good housing crisis isn't just about like I'm a realtor, and obviously I live on selling houses, but the real story is
so it's your fault.
It's my fault. But there's a bigger problem, and that's the rental market, man. I'm being when you have less housing, then the landowner can get more for their house. I don't hold it against them. If that's what the market is, right? If you can sell your car for $30,000 and it's only worth $20,000 to you, do you think you should? I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe you should.
$2,600 for anything in Patuxent Homes should be a crime, a prosecutable crime.
Well, here's the thing: you don't have to rent it.
Correct. But I think the other thing we need to look at is the county hasn't have a very good reputation on redevelopment. They're good at development. They're not good at redevelopment. So let's talk about affordable housing and rentals. Let's say in Lexington Park on Great Mills Road, where the old Ford dealership was at, that we could put a strip mall with condos or apartments on top. Milson Plaza's got the same process going. Why can't we do that where the bulk of your money is coming in from the retail, and then you can lower the rents or the mortgages for the units above?
Yeah, that's called adaptive reuse. It's actually a thing.
We don't talk about the Ford dealership on here. No,
I know. I didn't say anything.
Nobody needs to touch the Ford dealership. It's okay just the way it is.
Oh, okay. But I'm just looking at projects like that where you can get, and then you can have more attainable housing. It doesn't have to be rentals. It could be condos, but they're in the price range for the demographics that they need to serve. Yeah.
All right. So I hate to be that guy, but I have to grab the steering wheel at this point, because we've been talking about this for about 30 minutes. And if we want to actually have any type of conversation about the excise tax or the budget hearing, we have to get to that at this point, because we're already 40 minutes into this conversation. So
Is this going to be? Why don't you just clip right here and we'll go into episode 2?
Oh, you know what? We actually can do. You know what? I actually like that idea.
We should.
We will shut this thing down. I'll actually let y'all continue the conversation for a bulk of it, and I'll come back in and like Russell Simmons on Def Jam, come in. Thank you. Be safe. Good night.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So to be continued, and until we continue, everybody stay informed,
stay engaged,
and stay empowered.
We